What's up, y'all? It's Joe Budden. It's my favorite part of the holidays, Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. Join now because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving millions in player rewards.
Download the Prize Picks app today and use code TACKLE and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code TACKLE on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Eagles Postgame Live. Eagles get the W 20-13. Finish the 2024 regular season 14-3. We are reacting this live as we also react to the Washington and Packers game. Joining us, he is Shane at Shane_NFL on X. What's up, Shane?
What's up, Deibs? Yeah, I've had more rooting interest in Packers and Commanders games in like the entire fourth quarter than the Eagles game, but I did watch the Eagles game. I kept it on the big screen. I just followed everything else on my phone.
Also joining us, David at PHL Eagles News on X. What's up, David?
What's going on, guys? Hey, the best part about today is no injuries, man. Getting through that game with no injuries. Going into the postseason, wild card host next week, healthy.
It's also pretty good to beat the Giant starters with your backups, but, that's
pretty sad.
Yeah, this has been a wild Sunday. Jordan Love got hurt. Frankie Luvu got hurt. Both, I think, are okay. Christian Watson got hurt. That's definitely something to monitor as the Green Bay Packers have taken the lead with 28 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. But let's talk Eagles. Guys, if you're watching this live, please be sure to comment your thoughts on the game. We're going to talk players of the game, Eagles game in 3 words or less. We go offense to defense, leading off with Tanner McKee. I'll throw it to you, David. What was your just quick reaction to Tanner McKee's performance today?
I mean, he had a really good game, but it's really hard to analyze too much from it, just considering how everything was different. That Kellen Moore was calling a very different offense. The Giants were non-engaged and playing 8 to 12 yards off every receiver at the first half of the game. When they actually started playing a little bit more press defense, he did struggle some, down the stretch. But, I mean, he's done everything you could ask from a third-string quarterback, including probably surpassing Kenny Pickett as the second-string quarterback. Would he have 4 touchdowns in his first 7 throws or 3 touchdowns in his first 7 throws? I mean, it's unbelievable what he's did. His family came in to watch him play, which is really cool. Flew in from California. So it was a good day for him. It was a bright spot, but I wouldn't get too impressed by the stats from beating a Giants team that truthfully wanted to lose the football game.
Yeah. McKee finished, or I should call him Tanner Manning, finished with 269 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had a couple, it's really important. He did have a couple of throws that probably should have been picked off. But I thought he looked calm under pressure. I thought he struggled rolling out of the pocket. But for the most part, he was pretty accurate. And I was really impressed. I think there's definite Nick Foles vibes when it comes to Tanner McKee. So the fact that he was getting the ball out fast, he looked downright cool against the blitz. For me, the way he just slings that rock like it's crack, man, I was all in on Tanner McKee today, as I've always been. I've always been a big Tanner McKee guy. Shane, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, Tanner McKee, I thought he came down to earth a little bit in the second half. I thought the Giants adjusted to all of the play action things that the Eagles were doing, but I thought he looked good. I thought he looked like he belonged. I think that Tanner McKee is a better quarterback than like 5 teams have on their roster in the NFL right now. And so, I mean, there's several teams that he could start for, in my opinion. And I don't think that's just looking at it with my Tanner McKee colored glasses, but you telling me a team like Cleveland wouldn't put him out there and have better success. I thought he played well. I thought he showed he belonged. And I think we can also probably extrapolate some things about what Jalen Hurts prefers from an offense by some of the differences today with the same play caller. But I thought he had a good performance. He was fun to watch.
Yeah, and we talked about that at halftime. Like, I don't think there's any coincidence that a guy like Jahan Dotson finishes the game with 11 targets. Yeah, he wasn't playing with AJ or Devontae, but they were getting the ball out fast today. I thought McKee looks pretty good, especially on that tush push, man. Should Jalen Hurts be a little scared on those tush pushes because he's 6'6" and it looked pretty good. Any other thoughts on Tanner McKee before we get into running backs?
He had a really effective hard count that got them off as well during the tush push. But yeah,
do you think that was intentional? Do you think that was an intentional?
It's his voice. He changes the inflection of his voice. He changes the cadence and the volume. It's intentional. I noticed it last week. He does it intentionally. He changes that, but he showed a really good understanding of the offense too. He always knew where the outlet throw was. I mean, I think you see a guy who really studies and paid attention in the quarterback room.
The Washington Commanders just scored a touchdown with 2 seconds remaining in the game to Terry McLaurin.
Packers lost, so it'll be the Packers.
It'll be the Packers? All right.
Yep.
All right. Eagles versus Packers next week. That'll be a lot of fun. But anyway, more so intentional at that last penalty. There was a couple penalties at the end where I feel like part of me thought the tank was in full command there for
definitely at the end of the game. The one I'm talking about was in the second quarter, his first attempt at it.
Okay. Yeah. I wonder what your guys' take on this is. Do you see Tanner McKee as QB2 going forward? Do you think Howie maybe moves Tanner McKee and then keeps Kenny Pickett? What's your guys' vibes with that?
I don't know what they will do, but Tanner McKee should have been the QB2 all season, and that's not revisionist. I was saying that in the preseason, but he's a better player than Kenny Pickett, and I don't think it's particularly close.
Mm-hmm.
It depends. Yeah, it just depends on what he wants. Obviously, Tanner McKee is going to bring a bigger haul than Kenny Pickett at this point. Yeah. It just depends on if he's willing to pull the trigger on that.
Yep. Brett Eclipse says it's official. We play the Packers. Definitely keep an eye on that Christian Watson injury. I don't know where the status is for that, but that was like
Christian Watson is probably done. Non-contact knee injury, and they pretty immediately ruled him out for the rest of the game. So Watson is probably, not that this is a preview show, but Watson's probably out. Jordan Love, I think, was like an elbow contusion, so he'll probably be fine.
Yep. Yeah. That's Basham when he's playing for that higher draft pick. I feel like that was called in there. Let's go into running back. Got our first real taste of Will Shipley today. Let me scroll up. There it is. Will Shipley finished with 10 carries for 32 yards. Kenny Gainwell kind of finished this one out, but overall, I thought Shipley showed some good and some bad. I liked his ability to be a receiver out of the backfield. That's kind of the bread and butter of Will Shipley. On the other end, running the ball, I thought there was some tunnel vision with him. There were times when he had a hole and he just kind of put his helmet down and didn't have the vision to kind of hit it. Shane, what were your thoughts on the Eagles run game?
Not good. I mean, it's hard to evaluate a run game behind an entire backup offensive line. So, they averaged 2.4 yards per carry, and they had a 21% rushing success rate. So it wasn't good. I don't know that there's a lot to take away from that. Like, I thought Will Shipley looked slippery a few moments, like as a receiver. I thought he had a good pass pro rep, which was a big question mark for him. But overall, there weren't a lot of holes there in the run game.
What about you, David?
Yeah, I think he looked really elusive in space, but like you said, he really couldn't do much else, and he did have tunnel vision, but a lot of that could have been the line. I would like to add that Saquon Barkley would have broke the record in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That was my vibe at halftime. I was like, the Giants were barely trying, and there's no doubt Saquon would have went off. But at the end of the day, you look across the NFC, this NFC is drunk this week. I don't know what's going on, but a lot of injuries, things like that. Anyway, any other takes on the run game? Going once, going twice. We're moving on to the Eagles receivers. Jahan Dotson had his best game as a Philadelphia Eagle, 7 receptions, 94 yards. Dallas Goedert, when he played in the first half, looked outstanding. His chemistry with Tanner McKee was on point. Anai Smith got his first touchdown. E.J. Jenkins got his first touchdown. I'll throw it to you, Shane. Quick thoughts.
Yeah, Jahan Dotson, it was nice to see him get involved. And we spoke a little bit on the halftime show, but there's been some rough moments for Dotson this year in terms of getting pressed off the line of scrimmage and some things like that. And people have been down on the trade. And maybe you did trade too much for him, considering that he didn't ever really do much this year. But I just don't think wide receiver 3 is ever going to do much in this offense when you like to play 12 personnel as much as the Eagles do, when you run as much as they do. At the end of the day, I think Dotson he was an insurance policy for A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith going down. And you pay your premium for your insurance policy every year, and sometimes you need it and sometimes you don't. And the Eagles didn't need it this year. Now we can discuss if they gave up too much for Dotson, and maybe they did. But it was nice to see him get going a little bit today. It was nice to see Dallas Goedert back after missing, a month of the season with the knee injury. The other receivers, I'd hope to see like Johnny Wilson have some big catches or Anai Smith show something. And I didn't really see that a whole lot. But it kind of is what it is with those depth wide receiver guys. But I was happy to see Dotson get involved.
Yep. What about you, David?
Yeah, I agree with Shane. I wrote during the fourth quarter about Dotson. I put, if you view him as an insurance policy, the talent justifies the cost. We all make insurance premiums throughout the year, and you hope to God you never need to use them. So that's what the Eagles did. I agree with Shane. You can kind of debate, but I think his talent is worth the cost. I think you saw today he had 12 receptions going into this game. He had 11 targets in this one. He can play. He does have talent. I do think you have to tailor the offense different for his skill set than you do with the other way they throw it to AJ. And again, in the first quarter, if you move on to Dallas Goedert, 4 receptions, 55 yards, he looked good. I think he had 1 drop. I don't even know if he was credited with it, but it definitely looked like 1 drop to me. E.J. Jenkins hauled in his first career reception. It's also happened to be his first career touchdown. That was kind of fun to see. Anai Smith picked up his first career touchdown. It's one of those kind of games where you don't see a lot of people get their first career touchdown, but it was a fun game. I think that McKee got the ball to 8 different receivers in this game. Yeah. They all looked pretty good. I mean, it's hard to tell much. Again, New York was playing so far off on so many of these guys that it was really hard to make much out of it. But it was fun to see a lot of guys get involved who we were all curious to see play their first NFL game.
If there was something to complain about, I didn't like how we kind of abandoned the run on first downs. They were like very pass heavy first down, I feel like. And then they did nothing running the ball on those second downs. Just a quick knee-jerk reaction. Anai and Dotson look good, says Cameron, but they have gotten a lot of reps with McKee, especially Anai. Something to be said for just having a wide receiver, a couple easy passes early to get in a flow. We've got Green Bay this week. NFC South looking interesting. Pumpman says, thank God we don't have to see Jaden Daniels. I'll take Vic Fangio against a rookie quarterback all day in the playoffs. I wanted Washington, but here we are. So,
I mean, he led the offense to 54 yards in the first half, and Marcus Mariota led back-to-back 70-yard touchdown drives when he came in. So take from that what you will.
And the Washington run defense versus the Green Bay run defense, and I feel like they are just a better matchup for the Eagles on the Eagles side when the Eagles are fully healthy. Cameron says, I ain't scared. I'm right there with you, Cameron. I think the Eagles blow either team away. I just wanted to be Washington a little bit more. How bad was Jordan Love's injury? I know he was ready to come back in. Is anybody watching the Packers game?
He'll play. I think he got hit on the elbow, and I think they said it was just like tingling in his arm, like hit his funny bone or something. I would be shocked if he doesn't play next week.
Sure. Okay. All right. Let's roll on to the defense. Held the New York Giants to just 100 yards on 25 carries. Drew Lock, there's a lot of garbage yards there with Malik Neighbors getting that big touchdown reception there at the end. Highly athletic play, but the trash talk he was doing after that was just nonsense. Overall, I thought it was a solid performance from the Eagles defense. Jordan Davis looked really solid. I'm doing way too many things at once right now. Oren Burks, I think, really solidified himself as, the linebacker to come in after Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond. I love me some Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I just don't think he's ready yet. I think he'll be good down the road, but he did miss some tackles. I feel like he needs to work on wrapping up. And Oren Burks, I thought, just was a little bit more impressive. Had 17 tackles in this one. 17. I'll throw it to you, David, first. What was your takeaway with the Eagles defense?
Jordan Davis, as being one of the few starters to play the game, showed his elite play recognition the entire first quarter. I mean, he was just destroying people. Strong tackles, including a 5-yard TFL. Trotter had 4 tackles in the first quarter. I agree with you about his, shoring up his tackling, but his anticipation and his play reading ability is pretty elite. There are not many rookies who see the game as fast as he does from that position, and that's pretty impressive. And like you mentioned with Burks, he wore the green dot today, communicating all the defensive plays, and he did a really good job. He flies around to the ball. He diagnoses what the offenses are trying to do. And I think, again, you can just give credit to the linebacker coaching staff. It has paid huge dividends this season. There has not been a linebacker that's had to come in this game that has looked bad, and that's a really big tell. Also love seeing Isaiah Rodgers. He unleashed a punishing tackle in the first quarter, man, which is really good. And then, of course, he broke off that 51-yard run on the kickoff to start second half. So, and kudos to Keely Ringo too, because he looked really good on special teams, man. He's been quietly one of the better players on that unit the whole season.
Can we just insert Isaiah Rodgers now as the official returner? Like, I don't want any bits of Cooper DeJean back there. I hate it. I've always have. He's too important to this pass defense for this Vic Fangio defense. Isaiah Rodgers, that was nice to see. He almost got completely sidelined by Sidney Brown, who I'm almost out on, Shane. I think I'm done with Sidney Brown. I think
interception to end the game. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
It was an athletic interception too. That was a good catch.
I didn't see it. I'll see it soon. But put Sidney Brown in at fullback if he just wants to bash his own teammates and things like that. But God, I'm just get him off the field. Isaiah Rodgers at least has a decent chance to play with how often Darius Slay tends to get hurt. Quick thoughts on the defense, Shane.
Things I thought were interesting defensively. Bryce Huff playing 46 out of 53 snaps. Meanwhile, Jalix Hunt played 18 snaps. That's interesting to me.
Nice.
I don't know if that means is Jalix Hunt going to be playing more snaps than Huff in the postseason, or is this just hey, we're trying to get you back into game shape? I don't really know on that, but I thought that was interesting. I liked seeing Keely Ringo play. I thought he had a couple nice plays and coverage. Jeremiah Trotter, we talked at halftime, but that break downhill on that 4th and 1 in the first half kind of epitomizes him as a player, the player I thought he was coming out. He reads what it is. He triggers downhill fast, avoids the block, but then doesn't make the tackle. And that's kind of the thing with him. He leaves his feet for tackles a lot, and it makes him not a very good tackler at times. But he looked like he belonged out there. He's just not quite ready yet. And so I do believe the future is bright for the Eagles at the linebacker position and at the cornerback position. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean aside, I think, Keely Ringo, I don't think Isaiah Rodgers will be back next year, but I think those are guys that you can certainly put out into a rotation next year, and you can feel fine about it if Darius Slay doesn't return. So, again, it's hard to evaluate a lot team-wise, but looking at some individuals, those are a few of the guys that stood out to me today.
All right. Any other defensive takeaways before we roll on to Eagles player of the game?
No, I mentioned a couple special teams, though. I did find it interesting that last week they went with Jake Elliott doing the kickoffs, and this week they went back to Braden Mann. Sirianni said something that had to do with the weather, but I don't know. It's a little concerning to me. He seems to do better when he does the kickoffs, like he stretches his leg out more, because he was hitting them pre-game from 55, 58 yards. But missing the 39 and the wind is a little concerning.
Special teams are the biggest weakness on this roster, and I don't think that's debatable. And you look at last year when it was just such a shit show. Like, special teams was one of the most consistent parts of this team. And now with Jake Elliott missing another field goal, like, I'm concerned. What's your concern level, guys?
Elliott should be doing the kickoffs. Like, the reason they don't have Elliott doing kickoffs is because the punter or the kicker is more likely to be involved in tackles with the new kickoff format. Just kick the ball out of the end zone. You don't have to worry about it. Like, I am fine with giving you possession at the 30-yard line every time we score if the trade-off is that Jake Elliott is moving and kicking balls during the game and he's ready when it comes time to try a field goal. Like, that's a fine trade-off for me. I don't want him making tackles. Just kick it out of the end zone every time and let's start possession on the 30. But as it stands right now, like, there's no distance that I feel confident in Jake Elliott to hit a clutch kick in the playoffs from. Previously it was the just 50 plus, but you miss a 39-yarder today and it's concerning. So hopefully you don't need to rely on him in the playoffs, because I will be sweating it out if you do.
I think it was, what is he with 50 plus yarders, like 1 for 7 or something?
Yeah, and the one was a 50 exactly.
Crazy, man.
I also thought in the first half they should have let him try a 55-yarder instead of going for it on 4th down just to let him try.
I think what you said is true, Shane, about him kicking it off, and I think that's why Nick mentioned the weather, because the wind was a big factor today, and he did not think Jake would be able to get him to the back of the end zone, and he did not have any intention of having him out there trying to make a tackle. So I think that was what the switch is for. So I think the weather will play a big role in that next week. If it's windy again, I don't know if you're going to see Jake out there as frequently either. I guess they might go for it more because it's a playoff game. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But I do think that's a big determining factor.
Yep. All right. Any other takes before we get into player of the game? All right, let's get into player of the game. David, lead us off, man. Who you going with?
I'm going to go with Jahan Dotson. I mean, he hauled in 7 of his 11 targets, 94 yards. He ran some really good routes. He picked up some first downs. I thought he looked really good out there. And I know it was a big game for him because he's listened to a lot of crap this season, as he's not worth it and et cetera, et cetera. But he's been more of a victim of just not having any targets. And also the way the offense is constructed, like Shane mentioned earlier, when you're running 12 personnel, wide receiver 3 is just not going to get targets. It's just not going to be a big part of this offense. So I think he finally showed what he could do if he's going to be featured.
Yep. Tech agrees. What about you, Shane?
I will go player of the game. Man, give me Keely Ringo. I'll go Keely Ringo. He had a nice breakup on 4th down. He had a nice that one pump by Braden Mann. He definitely outkicked his coverage. You just can't outkick Keely Ringo's coverage. That was a great play by Ringo to get down and make that tackle. That's a big return potentially if he doesn't make that. So I'll give it to Ringo. Ringo's a guy that I have liked for a long time. I had a 1st-round grade on him. It's stupid that he fell to day 3. I still think he's going to be a plus starter for the Eagles for a long time once he finally cracks that starting lineup after Slay retires. So Keely Ringo for me. All
right. I was going to go there. I'm not going to go Tanner McKee. I thought he was a grade A in the first half. I thought he was more like B minus in the second half. There's a lot of different routes I could go, but for me, I'm going to go Dallas Goedert because if there's another concern for this team beyond special teams, for me is tight end, and I feel that getting Dallas Goedert healthy, and especially with his ability to run block and getting him on the field healthy, that was huge. So for me, I'm going to go Dallas Goedert, finishing the game in this one with 4 receptions for 55 yards. Was dominant when he was in there. So I read a clips. I was actually thinking about this with going AJ Brown, given all the injuries across the board for the NFC right now. That is a great one. That was actually in my head. Dallas gets the W. Let's get to Eagles 3 words. Eagles game in 3 words or less. Shane, lead us off.
All right. We don't have nearly as many comments today. Obviously, meaningless week 18. Maybe you guys tuned into other games. So you guys drop them here in the chat as well. But every week we put out on Twitter for our favorite 3-word reactions. We'll read some of our favorites on the show. So Max replied with a GIF of a New York Giants flag that says sucks and said big draft energy. We got Barron chiming in with Tanner touchdown McKee. Jay Brown gave us a Super Bowl, but he used SB, the abbreviation. So I'm going to need a ruling on this because he said SB or bust. Now, Super Bowl is 2 words, which would make it a 4-word, which is disqualified from 3 words or less. But if you just do SB, there's no space. That makes it 1 word. Yes? No? What do you guys think?
I like it.
You like it? Okay. So we'll read that one. We can read that one on the air. Super Bowl or bust. And then we got down giving us comments spaced moments apart. He said, Commanders suck, LOL. And then he replied and said, Packers suck too. So where the Eagles' experience in a nutshell watching the games today was pulling for whomever they wanted to face and realizing they're probably fine against either of those teams. So those are the ones from Twitter. I'm just going to say, bring on the Packers. Oh, wait, that's 4 words. Bring on GB. Bring on Green Bay. Let's go.
What about you, David?
Preseason vibes. That's what this game reminded me of. It was like watching a game in August. And to answer one of the questions that was down there, Rodgers is an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season.
Okay.
Matt LaFleur just confirmed post-game that Jordan Love could have returned in the game if needed. So he will play next week.
Any word on Christian Watson?
No, I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay. 3 words, playoffs. Tanny, 2 tuds. We have came out healthy, pack up love. I'll go for me this week. 1 to wild card. Green Bay season is going to start, or it's going to end how it started with a loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. Week 1 to the NFC wild card. That's my Eagles game in 3 words or less. Jordan, no love. I like that. I like that a lot. That about wraps it up. Short post game. We have tons and tons of Eagles versus Packers content for sure coming this week. Shane, final thoughts. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, one of the things that's most interesting to me in this game is how much the Eagles utilized rollouts and moving the pocket for Tanner McKee, who's not a remarkably athletic guy. I think he ran like a 4.8 40 at his pro day. It's the same play caller. And I think that pretty definitively tells you that Jalen Hurts just doesn't want to do a lot of under center play action rollout type stuff. Because if he wanted to, it's certainly something that is in Kellen Moore's wheelhouse. We saw it last year with the Chargers. We saw it today with Tanner McKee. And so not that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I do think it answers a question that we've wondered for a while. Like you kind of pick up breadcrumbs where you can of like who prefers what. And it does seem that Jalen Hurts probably doesn't like that style of offense, which is a shame because I do think it'd be a really good fit for him. But if he's not comfortable in it, it is what it is. So that's kind of honestly my biggest takeaway from the game is about a guy that didn't play. And that's that you're just probably never going to see that style of getting him on the move, moving the pocket very much. So that's my final thought, I guess. And then you guys, thanks for tuning into the post-game show. Be sure to go check out the Eagles Pin Pool Network. This will be posted shortly after we wrap, and there'll be lots of shows coming throughout the week to get you guys ready for the wild card matchup. So let's lock in.
All right, David, you're up, man.
I think my biggest joy of watching Fangio defense is how everything funnels through to the linebackers. It doesn't matter which linebackers are out there, they're going to eat. They're the ones who get the most tackles. This week it was 17 for Burks, 11 for Trotter Jr., 28 of the tackles. There were games last year where cornerbacks led the team in tackles for weeks. Slay led the team in tackles a couple times. Safeties, so it's so nice to see linebackers finally doing that again. And quick with Christian Watson, I'm pretty sure that's the same right knee he injured previously. And it looks, anytime it's non-contact, it looks pretty bad. But the Bears players were the ones signaling for the Packers to get over to the sideline. So I think it's pretty obvious he is not likely to play next week.
Matt LaFleur they asked him as a follow-up on Jordan Love, they asked him about Christian Watson, and he said, I'm not so sure about that right now. So,
yeah.
Man, it's a big one. All right.
Yeah, you hate to see it.
Yeah. All right. We are wrapping it up here. He is Shane Haff at Shane Haff NFL. My man David down there at PHL Eagle News. I am Deibs, Mr. Crockpot. Make sure you like, subscribe if you love Eagles W's. Eagles versus Packers this week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you check us out on Tuesday for Birds of the Round Table, 8 o'clock East Coast time, breaking down everything Eagles versus Pack. For Shane, for David, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.